Chasing Giants with Don Higgins and Terry Peer. Brought to you by Asio Camo, nature's most lethal camouflage. Follow along as Don and Terry discuss the techniques, strategies, and dedication needed to harvest one of God's most amazing creations, world-class whitetails.
Well, welcome everyone to the Chasing Giants podcast, episode 298. We're going to be airing this episode on November 9th. Don, we've talked about barometers, we've talked about the calendar and the best days to hunt, how it was all going to align. Let's walk through the last week of you being in the deer woods and kind of put some bookends around some of the hype we had for this last week.
Yeah, one thing, we knew that the temperatures were going to be warmer than normal and just continue to rise during the week, and that's exactly what they did. And by the time folks are listening to this, most of us will experience a major cool down. Supposed to hit here Sunday, Saturday night, Sunday morning. I think the high Sunday is supposed to be about 38 degrees, 22 for a low Sunday night. And then I think around 36 or so is a high on Monday. So there's going to be 2 days where it's really going to cool off. But this week that just passed, the 7th and the 8th are days that we always look to. And we're recording this on the 9th of the 7th. So we've seen that. And I consider 7 really the magic day. And sometimes it spills over into the 8th. But this rut has been kind of weird so far because I know the first couple of days of October or of November, there was a lot of bucks locked down with does. And I seen it on my farm, and I had so many people tell me. Even had a couple of drone guys say, they was flying drones to look for deer to recover and seen 2 or 3 or whatever bucks locked down, big bucks locked down with does. And these reports were coming from across the Midwest, and I don't really have a good explanation for that. I did hear one explanation from one of our listeners, said that, and he's a cattle producer like myself, and a lot of times when a cow has a calf and loses that calf, she starts cycling quicker than if she was nursing that calf. And he wondered if maybe, some of the does that maybe lost their fawns to predators or whatever, they weren't nursing or lactating, so possibly they came into heat a little bit early. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but I guess it's a good theory. But I was watching the barometer. We talked about the barometer a lot last week, and the question was, we knew that the barometer was going to be dropping on the 7th and 8th, but those are the magic days. Would that timing on the calendar, dominate over the barometer, or would the low barometer suppress deer movement? And it's really hard to say because the temperature was so warm, and it could be the temperature, and there's probably some correlation there with the barometer and the temperature, but the temperature was so warm that it definitely shut things down. Last night, today was the warmest day of the whole week, and last night I probably got the fewest pictures because I check my cell cams every morning and delete the pictures I got overnight. So I've got a count, each day of how many pictures I'm deleting. And last night I had fewer pictures than I've had in probably at least 2 weeks, going back into October. And then today, the midday activity was just totally dead. Actually, even this morning when I was sitting in the stand, I'm checking my phone every half hour, 45 minutes or so to see what's on the cameras. And there was nothing moving this morning. Everything, I did see 4 bucks this morning, but they were all like within the first 30, 40 minutes of daylight. And they were basically going to bed when I seen them. They weren't like just up running around like crazy. It's like they were just a little bit late getting to their beds. And once they were bedded down, there was absolutely no movement. So with the temperatures that we've had, I'm going to continue to watch that barometer. And obviously the barometer is going to follow those weather fronts and such. But um, what I'm curious about, and Al Foster's talked about this, like the muskies on a falling barometer is when the muskies really hit, apparently. And I'm just going to watch these deer and see if it seems to be better on a rising barometer or a falling barometer. But the temperatures were just so out of normal range this week that it was hard to say much about the barometer.
I had such weird things happen through the week. The corn on the farm and the neighboring farm was all taken out. So we had combines, grain carts, and semis, and then tillage in the fields. So that, whatever that standing corn was holding wasn't there, and that had to play a factor in it. The warm weather. But I look back, Don, and maybe you saw this or maybe it comes to mind, I don't know. But the two best days of movement for daylight activity was October 23rd and November 5th so far. When you look at daylight activity, so November 5th would have been this Wednesday, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about, how much you saw moving around. But I remember specifically October 23rd was the day that I went up to Illinois to hunt and check the cameras. And I got there in time to hunt, but the deer were already up and moving around at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was before the time change. So maybe, I don't know, all the guys that believe in the moon, I don't know if moon phase was part of it, barometer, but man, when that warm weather came in, and if for those folks in Illinois, one of those days the Weather Channel or the meteorologist missed the high temperature by like 18 degrees. I got in the truck and it was like 54 degrees at 4:30 in the morning. So, man, it was way too warm.
Yeah, that Wednesday the 5th was a day that I'll remember probably for the rest of my life. I had some great buck activity that morning. It did in the afternoon as well. Some really nice bucks. I got some great video footage. I mean, I got some fantastic video footage of some great up and comer bucks that I hope someday turn into giants, and I get to share some of this footage. But it was a fantastic day, and then it got even better. I'm going to go down a little bit of a rabbit trail, get off the deer hunting here, but it's a pretty good story that I really want to share because it's got to do with one of my consulting clients. And I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not even going to say where this gentleman is from. But Wednesday when I came out for lunch, I got a text. Well, actually, I had texted this consulting client to show him something that him and I joke around about a little bit, and he texted me back and asked me if I had 30 seconds for a quick phone call. And so I called him, and this when I did the consulting visit on this farm about, I'm going to guess 5 years ago, a fairly young family. Spent most of the day there. Went in, had lunch at their house. We went in and had lunch, and there's this gentleman and his wife had three little girls, and they're still fairly young, but at that time I would say they was probably all under 10 years old. And I couldn't help as I was sitting there eating lunch, watching that family and those three little girls, thinking about 20 years or more earlier, probably more like 30 years earlier with my little girls. And and this guy is very successful at what he does, super successful, and just in demand and everything. So his time's really valuable, and got a good wife that holds down the fort at home. And that afternoon, as we're out, I started a conversation totally not about deer hunting, but about kind of life in general, and shared my faith a little bit. But some of the things I told him was how his little girls made me think of my two daughters. And I told him, you don't realize how quick those girls are going to grow up and be gone. And I told him, one day those girls are watching you right now, and they're going to marry guys just like you. So I mean, you're setting an example right now for what your sons-in-law are going to be down the road, and I mean, talked about faith and all kinds of things, and I've talked to him since then, and about this on I wouldn't say a regular basis, but at least a couple times a year we talk. So I get on this phone call Wednesday, and he asked a favor of me, and I did not see this coming. I was totally blindsided. Um, he said, when you was here, you totally changed my life, and what you guys are doing is way more than deer. He said, you opened my eyes to a lot of things, and my faith was one of them. And he said, I want you to come to my farm and baptize me in my pond, or my lake. He's got a I don't know if you call it a big pond or a small lake, but he said, I want you to come and baptize me in this, in my lake. And probably have to be next summer now that it's cooled off. I didn't tell him I'm afraid of the water and I can't swim. But anyway, I told him I would definitely do it, but it just, I was already kind of feeling really good about the hunt I'd had that morning. And then when I get that phone call and talk to him in that conversation, and, it just, we need that reinforcement every once in a while that we're on the right track and we're doing, what God wants us to do. And I never ever dreamed that a week ago, I never dreamed I would ever baptize anyone. And I know you've had a similar situation. And I'll tell you what, when someone just goes into how you've changed their life, and I didn't change his life. I just kind of threw some ideas out, and the Holy Spirit worked on him. His heart was receptive to it. And if I felt good about seeing those big deer and getting those deer on video that morning, it didn't even compare to the call I got later that day. And I just wanted to share that because that little bit of encouragement just really perked me up for the rest of the week.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say about it, when we're dealing with matters of salvation, let's not wait till summer. We'll go to Tractor Supply and get a stock tank and fill it up with hot water for you two if that's what it takes. And if it takes a day of me driving you out there to do this for this guy, let's do it. That's not something we just wait around to do. So it is awesome to get that call. It's humbling that we can use this as a ministry. I got to spend quite a bit of time with Emerson Day and her husband Bryce this week as they were in hunting with us. And she says the same thing. Her love is music, but when it ministers to people and makes a difference, we compared kind of our stories about how humbling it is when people come up to you and say, hey, listening to you made my life better, my relationship or my marriage or my kids. That's kind of cool.
I'll tell you what, it blew me away. That was the last thing that I was expecting him to want to talk about. I thought there was a deer question, a land management question, or something he needed an answer to, but it just doesn't get any better than that.
It doesn't at all. So let's take a quick break for our Asio spot. Make sure that you go to Chasing Giants TV and check out, we just released a hunt video from Joe Miles in Kansas, hunting a Bobby Worthington rut funnel. It's already up on YouTube. You can go in and check it out, and we'll be right back.
Asio Gear was forged by apex predators. Our two camo patterns are built from nature's most lethal hunters and designed to vanish anywhere in the whitetail's range. Our Raptor pattern draws inspiration from the unique feather patterns of a great horned owl, while our Rapix pattern is derived from the patterns of bobcats, coyotes, mountain lions, and wolves. But camo's just the start. Every detail of our gear is engineered for bow hunters, from our patent-pending bow hunting collar to our premium fabrics that keep you quiet, dry, and dialed in all seasons. Asio Gear is made to last, with our lifetime warranty standing behind every stitch. Visit Asio Gear and use code CHASINGGIANTS for 15% off your first order. That's ASIOgear.com.
Okay, Don, speaking of Chasing Giants TV, I want to switch gears and talk about the Prodigy for just a little bit. And he has a video on Chasing Giants TV YouTube, airing on Tuesday morning. So Tuesday morning is what? So I can tell everybody, the 11th of November. So the 11th of November, this video is, it's got some elements to it that I think is just fascinating, but the biggest thing is the attention to detail that Wes puts in to scouting and, you know, understanding these bucks is like none that I've ever seen. I don't know why the kid doesn't use spreadsheets, but it's all these handwritten logs. We've gotten pictures of the text messages before about all these dates and patterns that he tracks. But I know at one point in time he said a quote, and I'm going to fumble through this, you'll have to correct me, as he said something to the effect of, there's a lot of people that dream about killing big deer, but there's very few that will do something every day to do it. And you got to be proud of this young man.
Well, he's the real deal. There's no doubt about it, and way far advanced than what I was at his age. And you know, I'm proud of the person he is. Besides his deer hunting knowledge and ability and the effort he puts in it, I mean, he's just a first class person, and there's nothing negative about him. And in fact, I wish I had some of his positivity. You just can't get him down. I mean, it doesn't matter what life throws at him. He just doesn't get down. He's always positive, and I just wish I had a big bundle of that. But definitely the real deal when it comes to chasing big deer.
He's got this knack of showing up when you're not feeling the best or you're upset about something, and just with that cheerful spirit of his. I know I wasn't real happy when I had to leave Illinois and come home and work on November 7th and had to not, you know, out of all the days that I needed to be in the woods, I couldn't. And I got a phone call from Wes out of the blue, or a text message, and said, hey, let's spend some time together or whatever. And we talked for a little bit. So if you guys want to see just the passion, he has a bucket list. Basically, he discloses very early in his life. And this hunt video that airs on Tuesday talks about accomplishing one of those bucket list things. But I just urge you to go in there, and he makes another point in there. It's about don't skip steps or don't take a shortcut. And you know how he approached this whole hunt for this deer is just an amazing story. I hope you guys will go watch it this coming Tuesday on Chasing Giants TV. And we're going to put in another video right now. It's a short little promo video for the Shipshewana show. We're going to try to do our best to have Wes there this coming year. We want everybody to get to know him a little bit more. But I can tell you that this show is going to be cranked up a little bit of a notch from anything we've done in the past. The promoters of the event are still bringing back the legends, but there's a lot of new people there that you guys have not connected with yet. And we'll be airing a lot of that information coming up soon. There's going to be a lot of fishing this year for the fishermen. But you guys are going to have some special treats for some other folks that we just really respect and love in the industry. But write this down. February 19th and 21st are the dates for the Midwest Sportsman's Classic. I'm going to put this video in for those listening on audio platforms. It might have some pauses or some music played where you don't know what's going on. But those watching on YouTube will get a kick out of this short little promo video for the Midwest Sportsman's Classic. We'll be right back.
The other thing that I've noticed about Lake Michigan bass, Lake Huron bass, they travel more than anywhere.
But I will say, if I do get vocals and say these coyotes have moved half a mile from when I previously had them located, then I will typically move and try to, if I can, I'll check out my maps. If I can, get close.
So my best advice is start hunting young, hunt everything you can hunt a lot, and shoot a lot. You'll be better for it when that big moment happens.
Okay, Don, we're right back, and we got a lot of positive comments about when we shared the screen for Weather Underground. So I'm going to take a chance to do that, and I'm going to pull up Weather Underground and share it on the screen. And this episode's going to air on, November 9th, I guess. So let's, I got it plugged in here to close to where you live. And let's look at this 10-day forecast and see what you're reading here and walk through it a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you something I didn't touch on yet is about this fall, this rut. There's more green leaves on the trees now than there. I don't know if I've ever seen this many at this time of the year in November.
And that's crazy because of how dry it was.
Yeah, but it's the temperatures.
Yeah.
So I looked it up, and our first frost, the average first frost for where I'm at, is October 24th. And we have not yet had a first frost. It looks like probably Saturday night is when we're going to have our first frost. Maybe not till Sunday night, but I think Saturday night's probably going to get it. And you know what? I mean, just look at how the bottom drops out of the temperatures from the high Saturday to the high Sunday. You're looking at a 20-degree difference.
Right.
Sunday night, temperatures drop below freezing for the first time all fall. And look at how as those temperatures drop off from Thursday during Sunday and Monday, how the high temperatures are so much lower than those other days. And look at what the barometer is doing. Sunday and Monday ought to be on fire. Now, the thing I don't like about it is you can see they're going to both be really windy days as well. But as cold as it is, and with that barometer where it's at, we talked about the red line and the black line coming together, like right there where you're at, Terry, on Monday. I mean, that is about as good as it gets, with the exception of the wind. I just wish the wind wasn't quite as brutal. But then
we're historically starting into the first part of what was the lockdown on a normal year.
Yep.
But since we saw so many deer locked down early, perhaps this high pressure, low temperature, might have stuff up and going. But this is what I'm going to be making sure I'm back in Illinois in a tree stand for, even though it's going to be really windy.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun sitting in a tree those 2 days, but you ought to see plenty of deer. But the thing that you notice is you get to the end of the week, and look, we're back at 71. I mean, we didn't even have 71 this week. As warm as it was this week, we didn't hit 70. But we're going to be there the end of next week. But watch what the barometer does next week. So we get the middle of the month on the 15th, and the barometer crashes, and the temperature just goes up. Probably the warmest it's been in a couple weeks anyway, because we didn't hit 70 at all this week, and we're not going to hit 70 at all, until Saturday. So there's at least 2 weeks. I just think that actually probably tomorrow, Saturday, but that's going to be before this podcast is released. But Sunday, as this podcast is released, the next day, Monday, fantastic. Tuesday, you can see the barometer starts going down and the temperature starts going up. But then we have here's what's going to be interesting this coming week is look how the barometer bounces back on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
And yet the temperatures are up there. So, but the thing of it is we're getting into the middle of November by that point. And, most of the big bucks are going to be locked down. It's just, if you get lucky and catch them in that period between does, that's when you got a real chance. And that doesn't mean you never get a chance at a big one during the lockdown, but it's a whole lot harder.
Yeah. And plus, this is an example of what my King David hunt is. That buck was in between does coming back to its summer range. For you guys that maybe had a picture of a buck, that summer, and haven't seen him, this could be an opportunity to watch that and see if he shows back up. Watch your cameras, be in the tree stand as much as you can. I mean, it's the rut. That's what it's all about. And this is why you have said 100 times, you can kill a big mature buck this time of year, but to kill a specific buck, it's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, the bucks are running crazy. I'm seeing multiple bucks on just about every hunt out, but I'm not seeing the bucks I want to see.
All right. Well, let's transition to the 360 blinds Higgins hot seat question. And it's going to be very similar to that phone call that you got. I want you to think about your trade show appearances over the years. And what is either the craziest or the most humbling thing that ever happened, or a cool story that resulted of you being at a trade show, working a booth, or being a speaker or a podcast host?
Well, I think it'd be hard for me to pin it down to one, but I think just, having someone come up and either show you a picture of a buck they shot and say they shot it because of something they learned from you, or even better is if they say, I got baptized recently, or my family and I started going to church recently, and it's all because of your podcast. I mean, that's as good as it gets, and it's happened multiple times. I mean, I can't just pin it down to one. Um, you know, there was a situation. Remember last year at Shipshawana when we sold our bows. We both sold our bows, and there was a young man who was a consulting client out of Ohio. William Miller bought my bow. All the proceeds went to Lester's feet. He paid $5,000 for it. Bless his heart. Well, William, he killed a bear this spring with that bow. I talked to him on the phone today, and he just shot a buck with that bow there in Ohio, and sent me a picture of that deer with that bow laying on it. It's the second year in a row he's killed a really good buck on a 25-acre property that I consulted on for him. And that young man, he's got a lot of Wes Delks in him. You can just tell that those guys had some really good parents that taught him right, and just very positive. I mean, very polite. I don't know. William and Wes both, I don't know how anybody could ever be mad at either one of them guys. If somebody was mad at him, I'd think that person had an issue, not William or Wes. And so that's, him showing up to Indiana kind of meant something. But then when he bought that bow too, because he doesn't live in Indiana, he lives in Ohio. So for him to get to Indiana and then to spend his money to buy that bow, and that was that meant a lot to me. I'm sure the bow means a lot to him, but him and his friendship means a lot to me.
Yeah, and it's very likely that buying that bow paid a family's house payment for 3 or 4 months while their kid was sick. So that puts in a little bit of perspective about what we're trying to do when we go to these trade shows. I think the one that stuck out the most to me was the art contest they had last year at Shipshawana. And this young lady drew a picture of yours that it would be just as high quality and look exactly like you as a cover of North American Whitetail over your head on the wall right now. The job that she did, putting the time into that, was amazing.
She is very, very talented. And aren't they selling that this year at Shipshawana? Going to auction that off?
Yeah, there's a lot of details that Derek's got to get us, but I think that there's a lot of different things. The art contest, I think there's a baking contest. I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff. I'm just wanting to know how you're going to deal with it if they have that cherry pie baking contest with your new diet. Are you going to go on sabbatical for a couple days?
I will get off my diet long enough to judge the cherry pie contest.
All right, well, Derek, you heard that. You got Don's support of your baking contest if you decide to do it. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of other things with so many families coming in to listen to the legends multiple days. They're trying to do more things for the families to get involved in, and especially the ladies. So we'll have more information on that. But yeah, that was really cool when that lady showed you that picture that she had done. I think it was either, well, I don't remember if it was charcoal or like just pencil, but man, it was fantastic. It was really cool.
She's talented, no doubt about it.
All right. Well, hope she's listening or her family's listening that we gave her a shout out on it. Let's take a quick break and listen to a Midwest Land Group spot, and we'll be back with our first listener submitted questions.
Does your real estate agent know the difference between a rub and a scrape? Or did they ask how many deer you caught this year? At Midwest Land Group, our agents evaluate the land the way serious hunters do, because it's exactly who we are. From surveys, soil types, floodplains and easements, to timber quality, tree stands, access, and food plots. Whether you're interested in buying or selling, work with an agent who speaks your language. Visit MidwestLandGroup.com to connect with one today. Midwest Land Group. Buyers, sellers, land. Connected.
All right, the first question comes from Kurt Colbert from China Grove, North Carolina. I didn't know there was really a town named China Grove. Remember the song, Terry, China Grove? It was that.
Nope.
That
must have been before me.
Before your time. It was a rock song. I don't even remember who sang it or how any of the rest of it goes. But anyway, he says, Don and Terry, first off, hats off to you both for consistently delivering a valuable podcast. As a longtime listener and loyal follower before Chasing Giants, I truly appreciate the way you continue to produce can't-miss content for those of us passionate about chasing whitetails. Considering factors like herd potential, state agency involvement, game laws, land quality, and property prices, where would you prioritize a search for a future recreational farm to pursue true giants? Kurt, that's easy. There's two places I would go. I would go to either Ohio or Kansas. Iowa's out of the mix because of the non-resident having to wait so long to hunt there. Kansas and Ohio. I think those are the two states where you got a chance to pull out world-class bucks and or really, really good bucks consistently. But if you're pulling out good ones consistently, sooner or later, you're probably going to have a chance at a world-class buck. So without a doubt, those would be the two states. And there's areas I'm not near as familiar with Kansas from one end to the other as I am Ohio. I probably better not say exactly where I'd go in Ohio, or I'm going to have some people mad at me. But let's just put it this way. When you go to Ohio, do your homework. And
Ray and Aiden Miller are cringing right now.
I'm not going to say that. Now everybody's going to know. I think the southern region of Ohio, southern half of Ohio, is a lot rougher, rougher terrain, a lot more woods. Personally, I would go to the northern half of Ohio, and I'd look in some of that more agricultural country. And there's not just one specific area in the north. I think from east to west, there's some really good pockets in the northern part of Ohio.
And Western Ohio is a lot like that too. Western Ohio has a lot of big ag ground that lays a lot like Illinois.
Yep.
Out by you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kansas, I think you definitely want to be on the eastern side. I'm kind of probably partial to the southeast corner, but again, I think in either state, it's the specific property you're on and what surrounds that property is way more important than the state you're in or the county you're in.
Right.
I mean, there's people still going to Pike County, Illinois, and that county's been shot up for many years. It's been living on its past reputation for way over a decade. I wouldn't go across Pike County if I could pick the farm I got to hunt in the whole county.
Yeah, it's bad. All right. Well, let's get the next question up for you.
This one is anonymous. Says, Don, please keep the name anonymous. Well, we did that. You read a question of mine on your podcast preseason this year about how you choose your target buck year to year and why. Well, I went into a long-winded story about my target buck, and unfortunately, my story came true. He was poached on me, and also a second buck has been poached recently. With our liberal game laws, the criminal will only get another fine, and their license previously revoked will only get revoked longer. My question is, have you run into poachers before, and what was the outcome? How do you resist taking action into your own hands when the law is not enough and fails you? If I put my faith in God and trust Him, I think my spirit will break watching more bucks in the area be poached. So how do I go about this without sin? Well, first of all, putting your faith in God, this world is full of evil, and Satan has his day, and his day is now. He's running wild, and I mean, just look at the headlines any night on the news, and you can see what a mess the country is. So don't blame God for someone poaching your deer, would be my first advice. Yeah, I've had poaching issues in my area, and I've got if anybody don't believe it, just drive by my mailbox and take a look at the bullet hole that's in the address sign there, that the 911 address sign that's there on my mailbox. Somebody shot a hole in it with a rifle not long ago. And but I'll say this, because I'm guessing there's probably some local scumbags listening to this. There's not a single vehicle travels the roads in my neighborhood that I don't get either video footage or a photograph of. Anywhere, any side of my section, my 4 sides of my section, if anyone travels that road, I don't care if it's day or night, I've either got a photograph or a video of that person's vehicle. And it's all because of the scumbags that just they don't want to do things right. They want to take advantage of someone else's efforts. And the other great thing that I've got going now is now I got my son-in-law and daughter building a new house just right here in the neighborhood that's going to help keep an eye on things. In fact, my daughter's already texted me a couple times, hey, there's a truck sitting at a certain place. I don't know if they're deer hunting. You might want to check it out. Or, hey, I seen a buck at this spot. Now I've got, and my 2 grandsons, now I got 8 more eyes in the neighborhood watching. So yeah, I've dealt with it. So how do I mean, you just got to have a presence. You got to let people know that you're not going to tolerate it. You're going to turn them in if they get caught. And I don't know how the system works where you're at. But here in Illinois, in each county, there's a state's attorney that is in charge of prosecuting cases. And I would contact them and let them know that you would encourage them to prosecute poachers to the fullest extent of the law that they can. And hopefully that'll work to some degree. But yeah, I've dealt with it. And I have no doubt that there's poachers in my neighborhood right now. Maybe not at this second, but this week, cruising the roads at night and whatever. Just hope they get caught. Put it that way.
All right. Didn't go down too much of a rabbit hole and get. I was expecting a liberal comment and all that good stuff, but
well, I think everybody knows my position on liberals. That's stupidity. I mean, we want to talk about the mayor of New York now. Man, you talk about. Can you believe? This is just proof right here that Satan is running wild in this world, because New York City, 24 years ago, watched the Twin Towers come down from a bunch of Muslim terrorists. 24 years later, they elect a Muslim as their mayor. You talk about a bunch of nutcases. I wouldn't go to New York City now if you paid me. Them people, I hope they get what they got coming. I hope that place just turns into one of them, the asshole countries that Donald Trump likes to talk about. And these Democrats, anybody that's voting for a Democrat is absolutely nuts. All the evidence is out there right now. I mean, there is no. I don't care how bad you hate Trump, and a lot of them hate Trump. Okay, you hate Trump. Does that mean you destroy your country, your kids' future because you hate Trump? Come on. They elected a Muslim. Can you believe that? Unbelievable.
You're welcome, everyone. You're welcome. All right, here's the next question.
Terry got me fired up a little bit. Keith Evans from Winchester, Illinois says, Don and Terry, longtime listener of your podcast and look forward to it weekly. Don brought up a topic in his rut report that I totally believe in and wish you guys would expand upon. What are your thoughts on banning cell cams? Do you think cell cams save as many bucks as they kill? Here in Illinois, we have several measures we could take to help the deer herd, but banning cell phone cameras would help the bucks reach maturity. Hunters today want everything the easy way. Woodsmanship is a thing of the past, but in the past is when Illinois was great. Thanks again for keeping it real. Well, Keith, the one thing I disagree with you on is I think that cell cams, I don't think that they save more bucks than they kill. I think regular cameras probably do because people have to go in. They don't have the patience not to go in and check them all the time. So the human intrusion, but the cell cam eliminates human intrusion. It also gives you real-time data that you can run out there and take advantage of. I do think cell cams are probably should be outlawed, but I don't think they never will be, simply because who's to say why a person has a camera on their property? Is it for security reasons? Is it to catch poachers driving up and down the road, or to catch people breaking in and stealing, or what? There's 100 good reasons for surveillance cameras on private property, and for the law enforcement to come in and say, well, that camera is here for deer, you can't have it. I just don't see that ever happening. Private landowner rights is going to trump that. So I don't think they're ever going away. Now, will they ever go away on public land? I'd say there's a really good chance that could happen. I think, what was it, Iowa or Kansas? One of them states tried to do it a year or so ago, and everybody had a fit. And you're absolutely right. Back when Illinois was great was before all this technology. Now we got, just think of all that we've got now that even a decade ago, 10 years ago, we did not have, at least to this advanced degree. And you got drones, you got the night vision or thermal scopes, you got the cell cameras, which are just dirt cheap and plentiful that anybody can really afford them. It's absolutely had a negative impact on the quality of the Illinois deer herd in terms of mature bucks. But sadly, we don't have a game agency that cares about mature bucks or a well-managed deer herd. It's just a number to them, and basically a cash cow that they can get income from every year. So, unfortunately, I think we've talked about it at least twice on this podcast already tonight, that Satan's having his day, and a lot of this technology is in wrong hands, is going to be misused, and I just don't think there's too much we can do about it, especially on private property.
Yep. All right, let's throw up the fourth question. This one's going to take you a little while.
Oh yeah, Mario Casasola from Valonia, Arkansas says, Don and Terry, I recently had a heated discussion with two friends regarding what to do with a newly purchased property of 100 acres with no previous sanctuary in place during the 2025 hunting season. Terry, I'd like you to give your input about which of these arguments Don might support before letting Don give his answer. Oh, by the way, the argument that Don supports gets a free lunch and gets to keep the t-shirt. If Don chooses option D, then we all buy our own lunch. LOL. So here they are. Guy A argues that he would just hunt the property by setting up on hot sign found scouting and using any suggestions from the previous landowner on where he's seen and killed deer. He would do this by hunting the fringes and keeping the wind in his favor as best as he can. He says that you're going to change the property through FSI, etc., which I guess is forest stand improvement, We call it TSI, timber stand improvement. But after the season ends and you bought the property to hunt anyway, just hunt it. Guy B argues that he would not hunt at all in 2025 and go ahead and start his FSI and other improvements with no care to whether or not he scares deer off to the neighbors, with the intention of getting to get his improvements ready for the 2026 season. Just do it. Guy C argues to stay off the property entirely in 2025 until after deer season closes, and then start FSI and improvements in January, February, so that he doesn't scare deer onto the neighbors and into the next county. Just stay out of it until after season. Don, are any of these a choice you'd support, or do you choose option D, an entirely different perspective that we have not considered? Well, Terry, I think they want you to answer.
What am I supposed to do? Say which one of them you would choose?
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to. You would never tell somebody who was buying a property not to use it for the first year. So C is out. I don't think you would say C. B. What was B? He would not want to hunt it at all and start his projects right now. No, I can't see you saying that. So it would either be A, you hunt the fringes, or D, you, I guess we've talked about this on the podcast before. You hunt the edges, put your cameras in. If you find something, try to move in. But yeah, I don't think it's B or C. It's either A or D.
Can you throw those back up there so I can refer to them? There's too much there for you.
I was confused about what they said about there's no sanctuary.
I think no sanctuary.
Is that what that's? Is that
in place?
Is that what?
No previous sanctuary in place.
I think it would have a lot to do with the property itself. So even though there's no set sanctuary, you might have areas that you could hunt. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm a little confused about the game here, but I'll take a stab at it and hopefully get a free lunch. So I'll say you'd say, I don't think it would necessarily be all of A, but part of A. Hunt the outskirts of it, hunt the right winds, and see what's there.
Well, so as I look at these, I really don't think there's any that I would do. I think B is the worst option of all. Not hunt, but go ahead and put all kinds of pressure on it during hunting season and drive all the deer out to everybody else around you so they can kill them all. No, you don't want to do that. You don't want to start any of your projects until after season. Let the deer start recognizing that property as a safe place. What I would do is D. I would go in with a armload of trail cameras. I would put them up in key locations. And if there was not a buck I wanted to target, I would not hunt at all. I would wait till after season and start my habitat projects. If a buck showed up on camera that I did want to hunt, then I would go in and I would hunt pretty much like Guy A says here, staying on the fringes, watching the wind and access and things like that. But I would not do that until a trail camera showed me that there was a buck I wanted to shoot. I think it's, it's a property that I guess it's been hunted in the past. You got to start, I tell all my consulting clients, you've got to grow the bucks that you want to shoot. You can't just create a magic deer property and then deer show up from everywhere to live on your property. It doesn't work like that. You've got to grow those bucks that you're going to shoot in the future. And so you want to be, very conservative about the pressure you put on that first year, because you don't know what's there. There may be some mature bucks, and if there is, then your cameras will show that and go hunt them. But what if there's not? What if the only thing there is yearling and 2-year-old bucks? Well, you don't want to run them all off and get them killed. I mean, just stay away until after season's over, then go in and do your habitat work, and those bucks that were there are very likely to come back. So I'd say,
so I guess
you guys don't fight
yes,
much.
I guess each of the guys that he was talking to, these were their opinions, and whichever one you agreed to him got a free lunch, I guess is what the game was.
Yeah.
So C might win if there's a shooter. Or A might win if there's a shooter. If there's no shooter, C wins.
Well, B is definitely the loser.
D is buying.
B needs to buy lunch for everybody.
Bob's buying, so
buy lunch for everybody and let your buddies dictate how you operate this property, because your ideas aren't going to cut
it. All right, we'll put the last question up for the week.
This one comes from James Harris from Hudson, Tennessee. He says, Don and Terry, do you guys have any relationship with your local game wardens? If so, how did that happen? I think we ethical hunters need to be better about having a good relationship or having good relationships with our game wardens. Thanks. Well, I think I've got a good relationship with my local game warden. I think that it's not a close relationship, and that's probably, it's not because of my desire not to have a close relationship, but I think it's probably appropriate for him. I mean, he can't be getting close to people that he might have to deal with on a professional level at some point. But the reason I think I've got a good relationship with him is I've got his phone number in my phone for one thing, and I can text him and I always get a reply. And in fact, just in the last week or so, I texted him with a question, and I said that, he could get back with me, call me, whatever, stop by. And within about 2 minutes of me sending that text, he calls me. So, yeah, I think I got a pretty good relationship with him. And I've told them in the past that, if they want to set up on my property at night with a robo deer trying to catch poachers or whatever, they can use my shed. They can back their vehicles in my shed so that they're not being seen, and do anything that they can to catch game law violators in my neck of the woods. And, but, I think he's smart for not having a close relationship with me, because you never know what could happen in the future. But I would say I got a good relationship with him, and definitely respect him. And if I'd see a game law violator, I would turn him in. So I think I do. How about you, Terry?
I know Mark Game Warden. I don't know him as well as I did the previous game warden that retired. He actually and his family went to church with us, so we knew him really well. But he retired some years ago. The new guy there, I have him in my phone. I'm not friends with him. He's not originally from around here, but yeah, I mean, if I need something, he's very responsive, and it's not just because it's me. I mean, I think he's we're lucky that we have a pretty good game warden. I think the bigger challenge here is these states are defunding the amount of time and the number of officers per county, and they're not out patrolling as much. Most of the techniques that these game wardens are using is watching social media and checking to see these hero shots people are posting, and then checking to see if you called it in or you got licenses. So a lot of the detective work from our game wardens outside of being on public and monitoring public land is actually done behind a computer. But I think that's not a result of the work ethic of our agents. I think our agents, of the most part, I'm sure there's bad eggs, just like you have bad cops and bad firefighters in some places. But I think that the fundamental problem is the funding of these agencies and how many guys they have out to really deal with the crap that goes on with trespassers and poaching and that kind of stuff. So we're going to be making announcements, Don and I, a little bit later in November about a new initiative that we're supporting here in the state of Kentucky that the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife is very involved in. So I've actually had quite a few meetings here recently, and it's too early to talk about it now. But yeah, our relationship with the Fish and Wildlife and the DNR, I don't have any problem on my end. Hope they never have any problem with me. I hope I never commit an accident somehow that they have a problem with me. But
I would love to have a closer relationship with my local game warden, but I totally understand why that's probably not going to happen, and respect him for that. But you know what? You know how hard it is for them to catch a game law violator? I mean, there is probably 1% of all violations ever get caught. And it just kind of irks me when you get on social media and you see jabs taken at conservation officers, game wardens, whatever you want to call them. These guys are just trying to protect the resource, and make people obey the law for the good of all ethical hunters and fishermen. I don't know why anyone that's an ethical outdoorsman would have any kind of an issue with their game warden unless their game warden was just an outlaw.
Yeah, the problems that we speak of with our, problems with game laws, that's the politicians involved. The people that are out trying to enforce it, it's no different than the cop or a firefighter or first responder. They're trying to do their job to the best of their ability with the resources they have. So, yeah, like I said, I've never had an issue with ours. And the only reason I had a closer relationship with the last one is because he went to our church. So
support your local law enforcement, whether it's a game warden or sheriff or state police or whatever. These guys are trying to do a difficult job with their hands tied behind their back because of the stinking politics in this world anymore. Support them all you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the end of the show. Comment down below as you're watching through the week and see how your results happen with this huge temperature drop starting Sunday. Temperature drop, pressure going up, but starting lockdown. It'll be really interesting to see what people are seeing. I saw Josh Pretzer has been running a combine here recently, and he said that he saw early lockdown too. So we've gotten that feedback a lot. So it'll be really interesting to see how things happen this week with the big weather change. I believe you have Sunday night prayer time this week, don't you, boss man?
I do, and yeah, it's kind of an interesting one. Have you listened to it yet?
I haven't.
Yeah, you may call me up tomorrow and tell me to record a different one. You don't like it, but we'll see what people have to say. But I got a question for you. Maybe you need to ask your dad, Terry. Okay. Would it be appropriate if if someone was baptizing someone if they wore a life jacket?
Perfectly acceptable.
I might get a life jacket.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I think you're supposed to get the whole body underwater, but if you're doing the baptizing, you don't need that.
Yeah, but I need to. Some of
those baptistries in church now, you actually stand behind the tank, so the only thing that gets wet is your arms going in. But this feller wants you to get down in his lake, so you're gonna be stepping on snapping turtles and down in the mud and get stuck and.
Well, I better have a life jacket, because what if he starts to slip and he pulls me down? That's not going to be a good scene.
We'll put some of them arm floaties on you. How about that?
Well, that ain't going to be enough. I need those and life jackets, and I probably need them on my legs, too.
I just want to see you in swimming trunks.
Well, I guess we'll have to wear a pair, won't I?
Yeah. Well, don't wait till summer, though. Let's get that thing done.
Maybe get Robin or somebody to take some pictures of me out there.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Well, good luck, everyone. Get out in the woods this week and listen to this prayer time and tell us what you think. God bless.
Chasing Giants has been brought to you by Asio Camo. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another episode of Chasing Giants.
Hey guys, welcome to Sunday night prayer time. As you can see, I'm in my 360 hunting blind. Been here since before daylight, and it's now late morning and the action has kind of cooled off, so I thought I would just close up the windows and try to record this prayer time for you. And got some interesting things to say, I think. Been sitting here all morning pondering a number of things, actually. Counting my blessings, for one thing. So, I got out of bed this morning and was able to stand on my own 2 feet. Didn't need help getting out of bed. Woke up in a warm bed. Left a nice new home. Went outside and got on my UTV. Loaded up with my new Matthews bow. Vortex optics. Got my video camera. So I carried in several $1,000s worth of gear into this blind. This blind is sitting on my own property, which, I'm very blessed to have, and also blessed to have worked decades to create this deer paradise that, I'm hunting in this morning. And I think about deer hunting and what it's done for me. And I've said many times, the best thing deer hunting has ever done for me is the good people that it's brought into my life that I would have never met had it not been for deer hunting. So just lots of positives this morning as I sit here and just realize how blessed I am. And then I start thinking about a scripture. Iron sharpens iron. We've all heard that. We've all heard that saying. It comes right out of scripture. Iron sharpens iron. And what's that mean? And I think as Christians, what that means is, one Christian brother helps build up and hold up other Christian brothers. We hold each other accountable. We encourage each other. And in doing so, it makes the walk easier for each of us. If you got brothers that are on the same path, that are trying to live the same lifestyle, and you guys are looking out for each other, that's a great thing. It's great for you and the people that you're trying to help along the way, and people that are helping you along the way. So, but as I dwelled on that scripture, and I thought about deer hunting more and the people that I've met through deer hunting, something struck me. And most of the time when we record these Sunday night prayer times, one of our main goals, I think, is to reach deer hunters that do not know Christ yet. We're trying to use our platform to lead others to salvation. And this one is going to be a little bit different, because I'm going to be talking to you guys that are already believers. You're already Christians. You're already walking the walk. But I don't think that we're all helping each other as much as we could. So let me dig into that just a little bit. As I sit here this morning and I thought about it, I started thinking about the good people in the hunting world that I've met, but also a few bad apples along the way. And I came to a realization this morning that's really kind of troubling. And that is the fact that as I think of some of those people in the hunting industry that, quite frankly, I wish I would have never met, the worst people that I've encountered in the hunting industry profess to be Christians. And I'm talking like a handful of them. Definitely the top 3, but I can think of some others that are right there as well, all professing to be Christians, but are all some of the people that I wish I'd never encountered, just to be very blunt about it. And there's none of us perfect. I'm sure there's people that are probably wishing they'd never encountered me. And, I try to be better with each passing day than I was the day before. We've all got our faults. We've all got our weaknesses. None of us are perfect. But the world is watching us. And if we can't hold up and build up each other, how are we going to lead anyone else to Christ? I think that many of us have really, fallen with our responsibility when it comes to iron sharpening iron, to lifting each other up. And I've had to deal with some situations over the past, say, year or so that are not so pleasant, and I've been forced to do some things that I really didn't want to do, and it's all been with supposed Christians, and that is really troubling to me. That the people that I feel like I've got to watch out for the most are fellow Christians. It seems like years ago I would use hate and negativity as fuel, as a driving force to help me succeed even more. But it seems like the more I succeed, the more the haters come out of the woodwork. And it's just really heartbreaking when those haters are fellow Christians, and you see them out there on social media or on podcast or whatever, claiming to be Christians, but they're not walking the walk. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And the whole reason, for my message today is to encourage you to self-reflect. Are you a good Christian brother to your other Christian brothers? And I know, again, none of us are perfect. I'm certainly not myself. And, I try to do better. But I'll tell you, guys, it is absolutely heartbreaking, some of the things that I've witnessed, especially over the last year or so, but from Christian brothers. So I just ask you to self-reflect. If you can't look at yourself and be open-minded and even critical if need be, how are you going to accept criticism from anyone else, including Christian brothers? So, I've heard many non-Christians and even some in the hunting industry talk about Christians and what hypocrites they are, and I really don't have a comeback when I hear that, because I can't argue with what they're saying. What they're saying is absolutely accurate. I've seen it, I've lived it. When a Christian brother is so jealous of another that he uses lies to destroy that person or try to destroy that person, when they're so jealous that they can't offer any encouragement to a fellow brother, it's just a sad situation. And I can only imagine, what God thinks as he looks down at us. And I think if we always live and act as if, God or Jesus was right there with us, that's a good starting point. And as I'm talking to you here, I've got a deer that has just stepped out probably 30 yards from me. Looks like a little spike buck. He's eating under a chestnut tree. But probably the first guy that's ever recorded one of these Sunday night prayer times from a deer blind and had deer feeding in front of him while he's recording. But anyway, back to the message. Guys, if we can't lift up each other, how are we going to lift up non-believers? Well, we need to start really self-reflecting and holding each other accountable. And if we see another brother not handling a situation correctly, the way to handle it is not get on social media and call them out or anything, but to do it privately, one-on-one. That's what the Bible tells us. If we have a problem, with another believer, is go to that person one-on-one and try to solve it. And, I've done that with a couple of people, in the hunting community and gotten nowhere, but at least I followed, the biblical principle or foundation for how to handle such a situation. And, this world is an absolute mess. It's never going to be turned around. the Bible tells us how the story ends, and that's great news for us believers. But until that happens, we're in a battle. Satan is real, and Satan wants to cause turmoil amongst believers, and that's exactly what I'm describing here. If believers are battling amongst themselves, what kind of witness is that to the rest of the world? It's absolutely a terrible one. And how are we going to win souls if we can't even get along ourselves? Who wants to join a group of, backstabbers, liars, cheaters, whatever? It's just a sad situation, and it's kind of been on my heart this morning. And as I said, I started sitting here watching the sunrise, counting my blessings that my health was so good I could get out of bed unassisted, and in a warm home that has heat, and a new home even, carry thousands of dollars worth of gear out to this blind, sit here on a farm that I'm blessed to own, that I'm blessed to have spent decades creating this deer habitat, and yet I'm troubled when I think of the actions of some fellow Christian brothers. And anyway, I hope you can take something away from this. Hope you self-reflect. Hope you think about your actions and what impact they're going to have on the kingdom. Are you, causing people to want to be like you, to be a Christian like you, or are you driving the world away, making people think that's the last thing I want to be is like those people? So with that, I'm going to end in prayer and wish you guys the best of luck this hunting season. Father God, I just pray for each and every person listening to the Sunday night prayer time and all the supporters of Chasing Giants. Father, I pray that you watch over them, guide and direct them, help them to be better Christians, help them to encourage their Christian brothers, not be a hindrance to Christian brothers, but to support them, stand up for them, go to them privately if they see an issue or have a problem. Father God, I pray that each and every person listening to this has a safe and successful hunting season, that their families are blessed, Lord. And I ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Good luck, everyone. Hope you have a great season.